Welcome to the very first episode of Tension of Opposites. Hello everyone, welcome back, I guess, if you listen to the intro. So I just uploaded the intro a couple of days ago, and so I'm very excited because something that has been in my head for the past 3 years now actually exists on a place in the internet, and it has its logo, and it has its website. It's just very, very weird and humbling at the same time because I am fully aware that this is the 1 billionth podcast that is starting right now. Everyone seems to be starting one every week. I am aware of that, and I'm sorry. But they make it seem that it's so easy, probably because they have people that do the main things for them, but I don't know. I am just guessing as I go along, and the editing part is really, really complicated. So this is a perfect example. This is my second attempt at recording this episode. I had it already done, finalized, but the audio was just not good. And until I have the money to buy a real, high quality professional microphone, this will just have to do. We'll just have to attempt again and again and again, and we'll learn as we go. So I don't mind, to be honest. I could talk about this over and over again, and I'm kind of excited to start this podcast with this topic because I kind of feel like I want it to exist in a space of its own. It's something that people know of. It's an experience that people know of, but definitely they don't know the entire intricacies of it and the complications that you can have, because it's one of those things that is always advertised as such a beautiful, basically 1 year holiday. So what I'm talking about is one of the 3 experiences I want to start this podcast with. I am very glad that I've had the opportunity to do these experiences because I definitely feel that they've had an impact on me as a person specifically, but also they're the reason why I wanted to start this. I realized that we all have the capability to tackle mainly inconsequential conversations. I love that term. Inconsequential conversations, as in your day-to-day, dead-end, small talk that won't leave anything just because talking about something a bit, deeper, more of a sensitive topic just seems uncomfortable. And when you manage to have these conversations with people from different backgrounds, from different cultures, in different languages, and most importantly, people that you've known, also that you have just met, it really depends. It's empowering, and it's something that I would like to bring forward. I was watching a comedy show last week, Michelle Wolf's joke show, and she was basically equating tweets to little manifestos, and she was saying that before tweets, people had blogs. And she described blogs as pretty much a conversation that nobody wanted to have with you. And so I guess, welcome to my blog. This is a conversation that nobody wanted to have with me, so here I am creating this just for the sake of talking about a year abroad in the United States. So, at the age of 16, I, completely unaware of what I was stepping into, decided to do 1 high school year abroad, my senior year, in the United States. And this decision came about very randomly. I come from quite a big family, and my older sister, I could see that a lot of her friends were starting to do this experience, and then as we went on, more and more people did it. Even when I did it, I think there were other 3 girls in my class that were doing it. Exchange years abroad have always existed, but I guess it wasn't as common for people to leave and to just leave everything behind. And I guess that coupled with the fact that I was obsessed with American culture, I feel like everyone around that age kind of is, because unknowingly we consume a lot of American pop culture, whether it comes from movies or songs or music videos. The idea that you get is a lot of the United States, and at that time, I guess it wasn't as messed up and as raw and out in the open as it is now. There still was the idea of the American dream and everything is possible, and then you've heard of people that went there and you see the pictures and they describe it as you see it, and then you go to the movies and that's the idea that you get, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you go on. And so there was me and this friend of mine that we were completely obsessed about the idea of going there. I remember in the beginning when I saw, especially my sister's friends doing it, I was thinking, oh, but they're crazy. How can they leave everything behind? Blah, 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 blah. And then the second that I started seeing the first pictures on Facebook of the halls, and they went to homecoming, and then they went to prom, and they did pumpkin carving, it clicked, and I was sold. I wanted to do that. It was very ironic because I was actually super shy. I had this weird idea that, I don't know, I guess you're in your little world, especially at that age where you're trying to figure out who you are and so on, and being also very shy, I would just hide into that. And I just developed this idea that it wasn't me that was different, but it was just this conviction that, oh, surely if I go to this little tiny town in the middle of nowhere and God knows where in the States, I will definitely find my quote-unquote place in the world. I will find my people. I will be understood. I will just, everything will make sense. So I was so convinced about that I kept pressing, I was pressuring my parents to do this, and they weren't very convinced. They had really never heard of this even before. But I kept pushing, and I guess they weren't expecting that I was so into this. And yeah, I finally managed to convince them, and the process also is a bit trickier than, I guess, what you just see, the final end product. So you have to obviously sign up with an agency. And in this specific episode, I want to talk about the whole coming about into the year abroad. Because my beginning of experience was, I guess, different from the usual one. And so I feel like it needs a dedicated section just for that. So basically, I did it for my senior year abroad. I applied October of the year before. I got accepted in December of the year before. And it's pretty much, you do an English test, you do a little interview, you say and you write down, this is the only thing that they can see of you. You create, obviously, your profile with your picture and so on, but you need to write down this presentation letter, which is something that I think about to this day, because this is the presentation that your potential future host family will read of you. And I didn't know what to write. I was very, very, very lazy. I didn't really have any hobbies or interests. I just knew that I wanted to do this year abroad. And I knew, and I was scared to go into, to end up in a cold country. So basically, when you apply, at least with my agency, you could decide a region. So some specific, 4 or 5 states you could decide to go to, or you could decide the specific state to go to, or you could do what I did, which was just be like, oh yeah, I'm open to whatever. Because technically the experience is going to be quote unquote the same everywhere, which is so not true if you think about it. But the only thing I knew is that I was terrified to end up in a place that was super, super freezing, like Minnesota or whatever. And so I remember that when I was writing down my presentation, I only wrote, I do this, I do that, I enjoy this, I enjoy that, and I started writing stuff like, oh, I enjoy the sun, I enjoy going to the beach, blah, blah, and then at a certain point I just wrote, I don't like skiing, and that was pretty much it. So that was a bit, underwhelming as a presentation, and I did that back in December, and then after that, nothing. I heard absolutely nothing for 7 months. So basically at the time, Facebook was the biggest thing, and there was this culture of posting on this dedicated exchange students group when you were selected by family. So the process would be basically just receiving an email and be like, hey, we are glad to inform you that you got accepted by this family in this place, and then you get to talk to them, they send you pictures, and so on. And so for 7 months, I had every day exchange students posting and saying like, hey, oh my god, great news, I just got accepted by this family, they live in this place, they have this house. It was also very, very unsafe because we were just, obviously we would look up the house on Google Maps and it would be posting the location and everything, and then they would start saying stuff like, oh, and then my host mom, she's so nice, she already started to get in contact with me. And we had a conversation on Skype, and she's already starting to decorate my room for me. And I remember every day I used to go and looking through my email and wouldn't find anything, and go on the Facebook group and just see just this entire list of all these people that got accepted. And obviously at that age, what do you expect? You start doubting, you start saying, okay, why aren't they accepting me? Did I write something that was wrong? What should I have been maybe just a bit, I should have tried to sell myself better. I was really thinking those things because you have 7 months, you have a lot of time to think. And then in the meantime, other people and other friends, other school friends had applied and other people were getting accepted, and you just don't understand what is wrong with you for not being accepted. Obviously, at that time, we did not know that the agency was accepting a lot more students than they had family. So basically, their idea was, let's just get everybody's money, and then afterwards we will be thinking about the most important thing, which is placing the student in the adequate family, which that is a whole other experience. But anyways, so this goes on for 7 months. I don't hear anything. School year's ends, and I go on holiday with my mom. And then at a certain point, I still remember the day, I get an email on the 13th of July. And I just get this email that says, hey, I am so excited to have you on board with us. I cannot wait to see you. Bye. That was pretty much what I had. An email where I could just see the name of this person, but there was no info. It wasn't from the agency. I was expecting an email from the agency, and I just get this email from this woman. And so we call the agency and they say, okay, that wasn't supposed to happen, but yes, there is a family that is interested. We will be sending you a formal request. So I get excited, but I don't know anything about this. And then obviously a lot of time passes in between. So I don't know if this is like a single mom, although then they also ask you if you want to be placed in a double placement, if you want to be placed with a single mom, if you want kids. There's a lot of specificities, although many times you don't really follow what you say, because they need to go by availability. But this happens, and then there's a point we get this request. I have been envisaging this for the longest time, this beautiful email. We're so glad to inform you that you've been accepted by this, and that. This is your huge ass house that you're gonna go to. Welcome to the beginning of the rest of your life, kind of thing. And instead, I get an email that says, we are pleased to inform you that there is a family interested in you. Would you be willing to accept, even if this person, which I guess in this case was the host mom, has committed this minor crime? I genuinely do not remember what the crime was. I think it was something like stealing a credit card or something, at the age of 16. That's it. That's all there was written. And I was just very confused. I was like, what? I mean, what am I supposed to do? And I didn't know what to do. Like, I had this idea in my head this entire time, but I was confused. My mom was confused. In the meantime, the lady still keeps emailing me, and she's like, oh, I'm so excited. And she starts giving more details. So she was saying that they lived in Arizona, that they had 2 little kids. And I don't know, she just seemed like genuinely excited. And so the more she was getting excited, the more I was getting excited. I didn't know whether to accept or not, but I remember then my auntie had come by and I just said, oh yeah, I'm going to Arizona. And I remember just hearing myself saying that, I'm going to Arizona. I was like, wow, this is actually happening. So my mom was definitely super confused. She was trying to understand more. She wanted to look up the place. They gave us the address. We couldn't really see where the place was. We kind of started looking up the town. But I feel like moms, they really do have a sixth sense. Like they understand that when something on the radar is off. She wanted to understand more, and she wasn't really given anything more from it. And something just didn't add up. And then we had to obviously decide very, very quickly what we wanted to do, because it was July. We didn't know when we were going to leave. Usually people would leave around end of August, September. So we had to decide quite quick. And I didn't know. I didn't know what this crime was. I then found out that it was a double placement. So that just means that you are placed in a house with another exchange student. And I didn't want that, just because I had older siblings, I wanted to have an experience that was only mine. So I was feeling very confused about that as well. And we genuinely weren't getting enough information, and they wanted us to decide quick. At this point, I think I was just so terrified that if I had said no, I would have had to wait God knows how long. And so at that point, I feel like I just wanted to get this over with. I was scared that then they would change their mind. I didn't know. So we decided to accept. And my mom, I guess she felt more comfortable knowing that there was another exchange student. So I found this girl on Facebook. I texted her. I said, hey, so what will you be doing? She said, oh yeah, I will be going. And so I said, okay, I guess if she does it and my mom feels more comfortable like this, we can do this. So, hooray, hooray, finally I have a place. I can say that I got placed, and I could not wait to write on the Facebook group. It was like, I got placed in Arizona, although I knew nothing about the family. Nothing. I just met them. But the enthusiasm was dampened very quickly once my mom started doing a bit more research about the place. So obviously she starts looking up the town and the school, and then she goes on the website of the school, and she sees starting date 22nd of July. And she was like, what? So we called in general, I have never heard of a school starting on the 22nd of July of all dates. They called the agency again, and we asked them, say, listen, here it says on the website that it's supposed to be starting next week. Is that true? And they were like, oh, no, yes, it's true. She has to leave soon. And at that time, we were not in our country yet. Like, we were abroad at the time we found out about this. So this was even more confusing, and panic just storms over. So I think we leave the day after, or everything is in a blur at that point. So I go back to my home. We still do not know at that point when I'm supposed to be leaving. There's barely all of my family at home because it was the summer, so everyone was in their, going on their individual holidays. And we started insisting. We don't really know what we need to do. And then I just remember the scene. We arrived, at this point it was the 16th of July, 8 p.m. My brother, I think, was on the phone with them for I don't know how long, kept insisting and seeing. I was like, this is ridiculous. We're supposed to know. How are we doing? They were offering for me to leave later because they had to book the flights for me. And I was like, I don't want to leave later. I mean, why do I have to preclude myself the experience, the beginning of the experience, which is the most important one, the starting week and whatsoever, because you decided to do everything last minute. So this goes on, and at a certain point I remember we were all in the kitchen and I just see him and my brother goes, okay, yeah, okay. And then he says, yeah, so basically they said that you're leaving tomorrow, see you at 4 a.m. at the airport. At that point it was 8 p.m. and they wanted me to be there at 4 a.m. at the airport. And we just completely shocked. I don't really know how we reacted from that. We had to completely ditch everything we were doing at the moment and start packing for the day before. It wasn't even the day before. It's illegal. They're supposed to tell you at least 36 hours before when you're supposed to leave. And then this was every last minute. It was just a mess. I only remember sending this broadcast message on WhatsApp to my friends and be like, hey, I am actually leaving tomorrow for a year. So if you can come by my house and say goodbye, that would be great. If not, see you next year. That I just remember writing that. So that was crazy. Packing was ironically the easiest packing that I've ever done because you just need to throw all your crap in one place. I had no idea what was going on at that point. I pack somewhat. My friends come by. I think at that point, like 5 or 6 friends had managed to come by. Their parents had brought them. It was just so weird. And we stayed outside for a little bit. We said goodbye. It was very, very weird. And at that point, I just have this image of me closing my eyes lightly. I think it must have been around 11:30 or 12 a.m. And just confused thinking, is this really happening? Am I leaving? I could not believe that we had actually packed. Again, some of my siblings weren't even there. I couldn't even say goodbye to them. It was all over the place. The next morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, I arrived at the airport. There was a chaperone guy who was someone who had done the exchange year 2 years prior, and now he was working for them. And I just remember him telling me, he was like, oh yeah, you're the new one. They literally just added your name a few hours ago. I was like, yeah, no shit. So we get to the place. There are other exchange students. I am there with my glasses, with my t-shirt, which was like the t-shirt of the agency with Tumblr motivational quotes on my thing. I had basically all gadgets that were given to us, and I had my huge ass bag. With the logo. I was just so excited. At that point, I didn't really have time to understand what was going on, but this moment will be ingrained in my head for the rest of my life, I feel like. So we get to the gate, and then this guy, the chaperone, just turns around and he says, okay, now it's time to say bye to your families. And there was my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister, and I just turn around and I just see my mom looking at me with this shock in her eyes, like completely teary, like what, her face read, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm just leaving my kid going there. And I just see the utter shock, and it makes me teary if I think of it, because I just saw her and she fully understood what was going on emotionally. And I just look at her and I'm like, okay, bye. And I just leave. Because I had no idea what was going on. I didn't have the time. And I remember, I also feel bad about this. Like, that takes away a part of it. Not being able to prepare mentally, not being able to create some sort of rapport with your host family that you're going to be meeting, being able to say bye to my friends. I didn't have time to say bye to anyone. I just had to pack up and leave, and that's it. And then that's one of those experiences that when you go, you're going, like you're not coming back. They highly, encourage you not to come back or not to have people visit you, just because it's such an overwhelming experience that you don't know how you're going to react, if you will have the strength to go back. That's usually what they say. So after that, it really felt easy. Like it felt like I was going on a 2-week trip. It didn't really feel like, oh God, I am actually leaving for a year. We were like a bunch of kids. We were, I think, around 10 people with this chaperone, which was like 2 years older than us. So it felt like just like a fun trip. So we do the long haul flight, and then we get to Chicago, and then from Chicago, everyone parts ways, and I have to get a flight to Las Vegas, because basically my town was a tiny little town in the tri-state area between Nevada, Arizona, and California. And I was supposed to land in Vegas, and I ended up landing there. It was late. I think it was something around 8 p.m. It was a long ass flight. I get there, but landing in Vegas is such an amazing sensation, because you have all the mountains surrounding you and just all these lights. It's beautiful. I didn't even know what I was feeling at that point. I was just so tired. So I get to McCarran Airport, and I see the family for the first time. And it was weird because, again, I hadn't seen... I think I'd seen some pictures on Facebook at that point. I had only spoken to the mom. It was very, very surreal to see this group of literal strangers just coming at me, and I knew nothing of them. And the little girls, they had two girls that were 7 and 8 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And they had created this banner with like, welcome Ella to the USA. And I still have it in my room. It was just so nice and overwhelming. And I was told that they would pick me up, and then we had to drive another hour and a half south to go to our town. But then I was pleasantly surprised, because they told us, listen, the other girl is coming tomorrow actually, so we're just going to stay in Vegas for one night. And they booked a room for me, and I could see this entire view. And of course, I was so young, so like the only thing I wanted to do was dying to find a Wi-Fi I could connect to, say that I had arrived safe, and post this picture and be like, the beginning of my experience in the States. And I was so excited. So yes, the next day comes, and it's a lot of small talk, to be honest. In the beginning, you don't really know what to say. Again, had I known them a little bit earlier, had I had a chance to talk and chat with them, they would have already known things about me. But in that case, it was like a blind date. You had no idea what to do. And everyone has a different approach. This was a first-time host family. And their approach was very much like, oh, it's like you're my daughter now. And in hindsight, I wouldn't really recommend that to anyone who is either interested in doing an experience abroad or in hosting kids. Hopefully that will be possible soon. I really hope so. Because you are still, at the end of the day, you're essentially a stranger. So to already eliminate completely those boundaries and be like, okay, yes, it's like you're my daughter. You can do this, you can do that. It feels nice. Like, obviously, you're trying to put me at ease, but at the same time, it will create some misunderstandings further on. But, I mean, that day, everything was fine. We just went out for brunch, and then we recreated a banner for the girl, and then the girl came, I think, at around 6 or 7 p.m. of the day after. And from there, we just drove home. Even the meeting with the girl was weird, because I had not envisioned having a double placement. That wasn't my idea. I am the youngest of 5, and the last thing I wanted to do was have more siblings than expected, and I just wanted this to be like my own thing. But it just so happened that, again, I had filed for a single placement, and they told us, listen, the only option you have is either a double placement or God knows when you're going to have another family. So at that point, what do? It's not fair, but you do it. And the girl was actually super nice. She had so much energy. I don't know how it was physically possible, but she did. So we drive down. I was dead tired at that point. I just wanted to go to sleep, so I wasn't very talkative. And then we do this 1.5-hour drive, and we enter into the town. And the town was the exact opposite, I think, of where I lived, definitely. But the idea, I guess, that I had of the typical American town, I think my idea, again, was very much from the movies. It was nothing discriminating per se, but it was just what I had been conditioned to think and to see. And it was your typical white neighborhood with these gigantic houses and the backyards. And that's just the idea that I had. That was from the movies that I watched. That was from the videos that I saw. That was the idea that I had. This town was this tiny town, 40,000 inhabitants. Essentially boils down to one straight street, diners and restaurants on the side. Then there's a river, and there's a lake, and all the mountains surrounding. The mountains, the most amazing scenery I've ever seen. I've been back since my year abroad, and still every time I'm just in awe. It seems fake. Like, the background is so beautiful. Ridiculously hot, because this was mid-July. And so then when we get there, it's just weird to see something so different. And then on the Nevada side, it was basically all casinos. Whoever will listen to this long enough will understand what is the town I'm talking about. So it was, it was definitely a shock that we weren't expecting that. But it is weird to say, like, I feel bad saying this, but I'm trying to recount as honestly as I can my experience. The biggest shock was when we got to the house. So we didn't get to see the house. We weren't sent any pictures or whatsoever. We didn't really know where the place was. And then when we get there, it was basically a tiny house. I think it was, I don't know if it can be considered a trailer house if it's not on a trailer, but I think like the material of the house, I guess, would constitute what you would imagine a trailer house to be. And it was just very tiny. And then we found out that they had basically swapped out the little girl's room for ours. So it would be a room that had to be divided in two, which was quite small. And I don't really know the girls. I guess they were young enough and they were just sleeping with the parents. I don't really know what the situation was. But it was a bit uncomfortable. Like, we weren't expecting that. So everything, I feel like, was just so overwhelming, and I was so tired. I wasn't really speaking much. We went to just buy some stuff, and then by the time we got back home, it was quite late and we went to sleep. I didn't really speak much. I didn't know what I thought of the place. I was just trying to... I was just trying to take it all in. Like, I had no idea what to think, what to say, and then at the same time, you're just bombarded with messages and all your friends. Oh my god, how are you doing? How's it going? And you expect, because I had done that as well, and I had seen my sister do it with her friends, and immediately it's like, oh, this is amazing, this is that, look at the house, look at this. And I genuinely did not know what to say and did not know what to send. I was just very confused. So I remember just me and the other girl, we were a bit in silence, and then we prepare for bed. And I lie down and I just let out a little tear. I remember that I didn't know what to think. I was like, oh God, I'm really doing this. Okay. I'm really here. Okay. I didn't know what to say. So that was the first day. And since that day, it started to get a bit complicated. So basically, the next week was trying to get settled in, so the mom took us to the school, and we got enrolled, and the school was beautiful. The school was what I imagined an American high school to be. So it had all different buildings. It was quite small, I guess, compared to the norm of an American high school. But I mean, for my standards, it seemed like a really, really big school. And we made our first friend there, and then I realized that actually I could not just do nothing. The idea, obviously, one stereotype that I have to say it's true is basically you go on a holiday for a year. It's very much frowned upon to do the year abroad because teachers generally think that you don't do anything for a year. And okay, on the one hand, yes, I mean, education-wise, I didn't really get an extreme knowledge out of it, but it's an experience. It's an entirely, I don't think they can be compared to just staying at home for another year. I mean, I managed to make up for it fine. It's something that you can do, but I know of public schools that really, really try to go against you. I had other exchange students that told me that they had to basically redo all the subjects that they used to study as if it were a state exam to be able to be admitted to do their classes afterwards. So I think it's a bit crazy and unfair in that sense. But I was told, I only had one experience of one girl who had done her year abroad in Ohio, and she got honorary diploma. So the year, I guess, got recognized as a year, but she didn't get a real American diploma. But she still managed to do the ceremony, to walk and whatever, so I was like, sweet, I don't have to do anything, and I just get there, and I'm just gonna get my honorary diploma, wonderful. Then when we get there, the principal basically was saying, oh no, if you want to do this, you actually have to do the entire year. So he wanted to get the transcripts, he wanted to translate all the transcripts, see which were the subjects that were missing, and then from there, understand what I had to do to make up for it. And I remember thinking, what? No, I did not come here to study. This is not what I signed up for. But I didn't really have that much of a choice. I remember speaking to my sister and being like, I don't know what to do. I thought I was going to do nothing. And everyone was like, please get over yourself. I mean, if the only way that you can walk, as in do the ceremony, the graduation, which is the coolest thing, is to graduate, just do it. I mean, I'm sure you can do it. So little did I know, we ended up being there all afternoon, translating all the transcripts of all the past years. Then I realized that I had to do take an online class of science, and I had to do another one of maths, and I will be getting into the whole high school aspect of it further on, but yes, it was a bit of a shock, but anyways, we decided to do that. That was a bit of a change of plans. And yeah, pretty much the first week was about having the time to fit in. Well, you didn't really have that much time because then we started immediately after. So we started first day of school. Everyone had, me and the other girl had different classes, which was also kind of exciting. And we had only met one girl. I ended up doing cross country because I am crap at sports, and with cross country at least I don't take the responsibility if someone else, I'm not making a group fail. It's a very individual thing, but also it's really nice because it's a very, very, very encouraging environment, so I loved it. The school aspect was super fine. The family experience was feeling off, it didn't feel natural. It was very much with that idea that I was saying in the beginning of the whole, no, you're my daughter. It's like you're my daughter, but not really. And then there were maybe some things that were bothering, namely the mom more than the dad. And they weren't very much explained to us. And it had gotten to the point that she would be complaining about things via Facebook messages, which has never happened to me. So we would be in the same house, and then I would be in my room, she would be in her room or in the living room, and she would just be saying, by the way, I was really offended by this thing or that thing. Like, the biggest and the first red flag was that we had just started going to school. We made our first friends, which were these ones of cross country, and they had invited us to go to the river. That was the thing that you did. So me and the other girl were super excited. We had our first American friends inviting us to do something, and we ended up going to the river. And she had got offended because she wanted to take us. She wanted that to be like the first family experience to do together. And we didn't really know what to say at that point. Like, we were a bit uncomfortable. Say, okay, I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, we had no idea what to do. I don't want this to be something like to bash on them. That is not my intent. It was just everything was so confusing, and we were thrown into it in a very confusing manner. But basically, this didn't last long. I mean, soon after there was this family friend that came over that we had met more times, so we got a bit more familiar with her. And then at a certain point we were outside, she was smoking a cigarette, and she started making these very specific questions. She was saying, so how's it going? How are you liking it? What do you think of, the host mom and host dad? And we were a bit like, we didn't know we could trust her or not. We're like, well, it's a bit uncomfortable. It's a bit off because of whatever reason. So we started saying what the reasons were. And she basically her face gets super serious. And then she says, okay, girls, I need to tell you something. And we're like, okay. We basically find out that obviously you're placed into a family with a coordinator. There is a local coordinator, which I guess takes care of, 10 to 20 exchange students. And she is the one that assigns the families and finds the families, and that's, you don't choose where you go. You can choose, as I said, either the region of states or the state, but you are not picked by the family, they pick you. And guess you make money off of how many students you have placed in your region, I think, and obviously what availability there is. She had found this family, I have no idea how, but basically in order to be accepted as a family, there has to be a background check. Not really, I mean, they have to go check your house and see if it's in decent conditions, and a reference. And this girl, this family friend, was the reference. And basically, she, who was the reference, went to our coordinator and she said, I do not recommend this family because they are not financially stable. They're not, not like mentally stable, but they had both been to war. Like, it didn't seem like a situation in which you wanted to bring two new students into, in terms of who was taking care of who was actually working, and who was, I believe one of them was a carer in that sense. So this was all new information to us. We had no idea what was going on. And basically, she said, do not use this family. And the coordinator went to this family and said, hey, this reference is not good. Find me someone else, so we'll give you a positive reference. And we were just in utter shock when we found out this. Because then obviously this creates a very uncomfortable experience. Like, you're not going to bring this up to the host family, but you need to do something about this. And we were already feeling off about this for a week or so. And at that point, we were like, okay, this is it. Like, if this is the situation, we want to tap out. No, it's not good. But we had no idea how to go about this because it was the coordinator who did this. So she was our point of reference. She was the person that is in charge of us, that needs to take care of whatever legal matters might be happening, or, she is the point of reference. And we had only met her once. We had a pool party and that was it. We didn't really have any relationship with her. We didn't know what to do at that point. This marks the beginning of many, many times in which I started omitting things to my family, not even lying, just omitting, because you realize that it doesn't really make sense to say these things to your family. It will just make them worried. And then again, as I said before, my mom had a bad feeling about this from the beginning. And so when eventually she found out that there would be something going on. She was like, I knew it. Nobody believed me. Everybody thought that I was overreacting because literally everyone told her, no, it's fine. Just let her leave. It's just you. You're protective because you're your mom. And she was like, I said it. I knew it. And yeah, it's funny if I think back to that. And she was so worried. She was calling me every day. She was asking like more times a day. And I remember even at this point, so once we said this to the coordinator, obviously we had to talk about it even to the host family. The mom got very offended that this was a conversation that was happening, that we would be going away from her. And so there was a bit of a separation period, and we went to the coordinator's house. And yeah, that was very awkward. My mom was super worried. She was trying to call me every day. My coordinator had the nerve to say, well, I mean, she's a bit overly attached. I'm like, seriously? I mean, do you realize what is going on? And you did this? But that starts the beginning also of another negative thing that I think is part of this experience, is that you have no representation. Like, it is literally a matter of luck. I know of people that went with my same agency and they had an amazing experience. It really depends on the family, on the coordinator that you end up with, and mine was simply not good. Like, she really was not good at her job, and I say it from a shared experience. And when we got there, we had no other representation outside of her. Things would be taken to another, like, higher level if it was a more serious situation, and this was kind of like her domain. And a brainwash happened, basically. When we were there that week, that was supposed to be the separation week, she told us from the get-go, we are just going to have the separation period. At the end of this week, you are going to go back to the family. Kind of like whether you like it or not. Because she said, this is your experience. You decided to do this. You decided to come here. You decided to be part of the American culture, to understand how things work. It was your decision and you have to take responsibility for it. Basically, this is what she said. And we didn't know what to do at that point. I mean, after a week and after being told only that narrative, that it was our responsibility, that we had to do it. And by the way, again, we are 16, without parents, without any kind of representation. What are you going to do at that point? I mean, if the person that's supposed to be taking care of this is adamant about you going back, at a certain point you kind of come to terms with the fact that you're going to go back. And in the meantime, also the coordinator had another exchange student that she was hosting. Things just kind of started, we started to just think, okay, I guess that's what we have to do. I guess we have to go over there, and we wanted to work it out. I mean, I feel like at a certain point you do want to do it, because another aspect that is not really talked about is shame. You feel shame if you fail at this experience, because all you see, especially at that time where there really wasn't that much of like an awareness and posting about your vulnerabilities. No, it was literally just pretty pictures and nice captions and everything is amazing, everything is beautiful. You only see that and you just think, okay, what did I do wrong? Like, how did this go wrong already so dramatically? And I literally just moved here a week ago. And you don't want to accept the fact that it didn't work out to the family, although obviously there's a variety of reasons why it didn't work out, but you don't know that at that time. You don't have anyone consoling you or seeing you. So at the end of that, we really thought, okay, I mean, we're going to do it. We're going to go back. We're going to try to make this work. We kind of left the house. We were about to leave like 2 days later, and we were convinced that we were going to do that. And then, I still remember this, we go to I think it was the coordinator's mom's house for like a Sunday lunch. She goes on Facebook to check a couple of things, and she finds out that our host mom started posting on different groups, all exchange student groups within the region, saying, hey, they took my exchange student away from me, so I guess I can host again if anyone wants like a host mom, a host family. And I just remember seeing like the expression of shock on the coordinator's face. She was very visibly irritated because obviously this is not how it works. The workflow is supposed to be that she finds it, then she talks to the family, but everything is done through the coordinator. You can't just pick up and decide. And again, we hadn't formally said that we wanted to leave. There was a little bit of a discussion. I wouldn't even say a fight because, again, it was two 16-year-olds. We were like super, super shy. There wasn't a real discussion. They just had a bit of a separation period, which was very beneficial at this point. And she was irritated by that. And basically at a certain point, she just says, we were supposed to go back like the day after. She just says, okay, no, I guess no. This cannot work because this cannot be done. So we're going to have to find a new family. We're like, okay, wonderful. So we end up staying there a little bit longer. I think I'm getting the time wrong because, so I arrived on the 17th, started school on the 22nd, and I was assigned to a new family on the 1st of August. So basically, yes, this is something that happened over a matter of 2 weeks, really. And that process also was very weird. So at that point, we started going to school. We didn't really know our friends, but the American way, I guess, of approaching is very friendly. It's very informal. It's very like, oh my God, I love you. Where are you from? Your accent, everything is very like this. So in the beginning, you feel like you're a superstar. Everybody wants to meet you. Everyone thinks that you're interesting. You're very much on that high. But we didn't really have like friends. We had some people from the cross-country team. Among this team, there was this girl. And I remember once we were at lunch, me and the other girl used to always have lunch together, always with the same group. And basically she says, oh yeah, not referring to me, to the other girl. She was saying, I think we're going to be hosting you. Because I guess the coordinator had reached out to some people, and among them there was also this family. And when we went back home, the coordinator confirmed, and she said, yep, there is a family that would be interested, and basically this is what they're looking for. And basically they read out what they're looking for, and they're like, oh, we are a very active family, we like going for sports, we like doing a lot of activities, playing football. And I just remember dying inside and thinking, oh, seriously. So, I just felt so defeated. I was like, I am really not going to go into this family, which, by the way, I knew more or less. They seemed very nice. They seemed very the picture that I had in my head before leaving. The idea that I had of the experience that I was supposed to be leading. And I was like, am I really this close to having a family, and I'm not going to be doing it because I am not an active person? Because, I mean, when they read out the description, that description was for the other girl. It wasn't for me. It was obvious, like, all the three of us knew as she was saying what they were looking for in an exchange student, which, again, it feels like you're a dog at a pound. Like, you're just waiting for your adoptive family. It's a very weird place to be in, especially when you have to go through that twice. And it just, I remember just feeling so defeated and thinking, okay, I guess I'm not good enough. Like, I was already so timid and insecure, and then when that happened, I just felt really weird. But actually, I'm sure that the time process went much faster than I'm imagining, like, in my head, because then we started looking for families, and it was interesting because in this case, I could assist. I could see the house, I could see the family firsthand, which doesn't happen before. And at this point, I'd become, I think, also very materialistic, as in, I saw where the other girl ended up, and she had, again, this really, really nice big house, really nice family, and everything. And so I was very much looking at the houses. I remember that was the main thing that I was looking at. It had to fit the idea and my description, now that we had, like, a second chance. And we go and we meet this family. And the funny thing is that I don't really have an idea of what the family was like, because I was not paying attention at all to the family. Like, I was, obviously, but my first thing was like, okay, house, okay, backyard, okay, living room, nice, room. That actually seems nice, room. Yeah, okay, kid, never mind, no, I'm kidding. So basically it was a family of 4. They had 2 kids, 2 girls, 8 years old and a year and a half. And we get in, and mainly the dad does all the talking. I didn't really know it just felt so awkward. I remember seeing this family, and the coordinator obviously was speaking mainly. It was the coordinator and the dad. The mom was very quiet as well. the dad was like, oh, yeah, this would be really interesting. And then my kid, obviously, it would be so nice for her to meet people from other countries and other cultures. And I remember just seeing this kid also. She was super shy and she had this really nice room, and we talked a bit. I have to be honest, I wasn't really into kids at the time. I still am not, just because I think that like the age that is 7, 8 is then when they stop having the attention that usually they're used to, and they're just like, oh, like, hey, look at me, look what I could do. So yes, it was basically the second family with a kid around that age. I remember thinking that. And then she was a baby. She was so cute. And yeah, so we get in and we chat a little bit, and that pretty much is the end of it. We get into the car and the coordinator says, this family seems like a nice family. Again, whether I liked it or not, she was going to place me in that family. It really, I don't think I had that much of a say in it at that point. And it was I think the only family that had reached out. And I have to say, I was super lucky. I ended up being in the right family for me. And my other former host sister ended up being in the right family for her. Had we crisscrossed, had we exchanged things, it would have not worked out. I am sure about that. Just character-wise, it ended up being a good choice. And a couple of days later, I remember the host that picks me up. We get into the car. We hadn't really spoken much. So we started chatting a little bit, and he just mentions that, his name was Jason, and Jason was a very popular name in the 70s. I don't know why I remember this detail very vividly. And before going home, we just stopped at, I don't know where it was. I guess it was Subway or something. And we just like ran some errands and we get something to eat. And I remember when we get back into the car, he just looks at me and he says, I have a good feeling about this. And I just look at him like, yeah, I have a good feeling about this too. And that's it. And that's how I fully started the rest of my year abroad. But I feel like this section had to be a specific section dedicated only to this. What I want to say is that I've heard of students that had way worse experiences than I did, which I won't be repeating, to be honest. Maybe further on, if I manage to have like a talk with some of the former exchange students that I'm lucky enough to still be in contact with. But that should not be a deterrent to be able to do this experience. I don't know if in the current state of affairs it will be possible anytime soon to do this. The more I go on like with age, and the more I realize, wow, like it was a complete leap into the unknown. But I think you really need to have that level of unawareness to be able to do that, because if you start taking into account all the possibilities of what could happen, what it could be like, you will never bring yourself to do it. And if I did it, as shy as I was, with my ridiculous expectation and idea of what my experience was going to represent for me and my future, like I was convinced 1000% I was going to leave, I was going to get there, I was going to find my place in the world, I was going to live in the States happily ever after, amen. That was 1000% my idea. It didn't end up being that way, but I'm so glad that it went the way that it did. It was so important for me, and I got so much out of it. But it is a hard experience, and I want to bring that forward as well, because again, they tend to glamorize it a lot. Every time they ask about it, they don't really want to know what your answer is. They are not genuinely interested in knowing what you had to go through, and you tend to hide these things and you tend not to bring them up. And it's something that always remains among the exchange students. The exchange students, for me at least, were the biggest support system that you could get, the only support system you could get. You really feel that at that point it's you guys against the world, and it's nice because you get to see as your relationships develop, you create such strong bonds. You have to have such weird confrontations that you would never ever have normally at your age. You develop so much as a person, and like for me, I will be talking about it further on. It culminated into this trip that we managed to do with like exchange students, and it was at such a blissful moment of the year abroad where everyone feels like, oh god, I did this, like I'm actually finishing this, and you feel like you've managed to overcome the biggest obstacle of the world. And I really do believe that you you carry that with you. You carry that kind of security with you for the rest of your life, because it's something that I never managed to find in any other way. I don't think I would have the strength to be able to do this. It was just so overwhelming and all-encompassing, and you really do feel on your own. But at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to really develop yourself, your person, who you want to be, what you actually like. You get to see yourself outside of the cultural context, the context of your family, the context of your friends. I remember the biggest thing was me realizing, oh, I actually don't really like these things. I actually like these things. And you get to be another person as well. You get to present yourself in whatever form you want to present. Whatever I was when I was there, there's no way I will ever be that person at that time and that place. I will never be that person at that time and that place ever again. And it's weird to say, it's a bit sad if you think about it, but it's this gift that you have every time to be able to recreate yourself in a variety of ways. And it's one of the many reasons why I love this experience, and I'm so glad that I did this, and I could not recommend it enough. With due caution. Like, I do just hope that, I wish that someone had told me a little bit, like they would have kind of narrowed down the whole idea and fantasy of what it was supposed to be, and be like, okay, it will be that, it can be that, but also you can have these obstacles, you can have these problems, and it's okay. Everybody goes through these. You will manage to survive. That is the whole point of it, and you're going to be so much stronger after it. I just wish someone had given that sort of encouragement, and then once we were there, that support. And I really, truly wish, if there's anyone in the future that will listen to this and will be embarking upon this journey, I hope that they have that awareness and that support system, and I know that they will do an amazing job, because, to be honest, if I manage to do it, anyone can do it. So, and I think I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for listening. This was obviously a part 1. And in the next episode, I will be covering the whole experience on a whole. But I feel like this had to have like a dedicated section to it. And then after that, there will be the first guest, the first person that I associate to this experience, that you will find out and you'll get to meet further on. Thank you for listening to the very first episode. I cannot believe I actually did this, and see you next time.